and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name's Candace Marie. Happy Friday. I'm excited to be back. We are live on the channel on January the 23rd, 2026. If you guys can see me, give me a thumbs up, like the stream, consider sharing it out with other people. It's going to let others know that we're live, and we're doing live tarot readings on the channel this evening. So if you guys are seeing me on Saturday or Sunday, I'm no longer live. I missed you, but I'll catch you next Friday at the same time, 6 p.m. Central. And we're going to be doing full moon readings on the full moon in Leo. So tonight it's tarot, it's not astrology. And if you guys are new here, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up, like this video, and click the bell button below so you can get alerts of more of my readings. I'm always here on Fridays. And if you want to get a reading, you got to get in the queue. So to get in the queue, scan the QR code right up there. That's going to take you to my PayPal. We're doing 1-card tarot readings for $20 donations, a 3-card spread for $40. You can ask any one question you want, and I'm going to be using the overhead above so you guys can see me pull the cards in real time. A little bit about just some stuff that's going on before we get into it. So it is basically last call the next couple days. If you guys want to join my Astro 301 course, I'm teaching advanced techniques in astrology, lots of fun stuff. It's going to be 8 weeks that we're going to be meeting live on Zoom. And I am teaching all of my tips and tricks to help you guys feel really honed in on kind of developing your skills to be a working astrologer. So if you guys want to check that course out, click the links below, head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com, check out my course page, and you can see the syllabus and everything else that we've got going on. It is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope that if you guys have taken some of my other courses, my Astro 101 or 201, that you consider joining because it's going to be a blast. Also, we do have February horoscopes out. So if you guys haven't seen those already, check those out. They're going to be out for you guys, talking about all the effects, including the solar eclipse in Aquarius and the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So listen to your rising sign if you want to see that. And make sure you're subscribed. And if you are a member, you guys are actually going to see my videos come out early, so you'll be able to catch the early viewing of my astro weather that's coming out on Sunday. It's long. We're going to talk about Neptune going back into Aries. And if you want to become a member, consider joining my memberships. I've got 4 different levels, and if you get on level 4, you support me. You're going to be a part of the Daily Horoscope Club. You're going to get a shout out from me once a month for supporting the channel, and you get a reading once a month, your choice, tarot or astrology. And you guys get to cut the line, so we take the members first. All right, for all of that and more, or anything else you want to see, check my community tab, check out my website, and I'm taking clients that are booking right now in April, May, and June. So I'm busy, but if you know you have a birthday coming up, make sure you guys get booked. All right, so you guys, if you're new to this, basically we're going to take the readings in the order that we receive them. So I'm going to let you know who I already have in the queue. PayPal has been an absolute nightmare, pretty much since the new moon in Sagittarius. I don't know why, but it's just been a problem. So I may have to kind of go back and forth to make sure that I'm getting all the people in the queue. You'll hear me call your name. That'll let you know that your reading is coming up. And if you guys can't wait and hang on the live reading, no worries. This video will remain on YouTube forever, so you guys can come back to your reading and look at it at a later date. Or you guys can give me some feedback and let me know how your reading manifests for you. All right, so we have got in the queue right now, Aaron, Tiana, Omar, Vanessa, Corey, Amanda, and Kimberly. We also take Super Chat, so if you guys are watching on YouTube and you want to get in on Super Chat, you can do that. And you can also join your level 4 memberships and you can get a reading. Is there any level 4 people who are here? What's up? David's here. What's up, Corey? What's up, B. Lachey? Hello. All right, so what's up, Emmy? Let's see if there's any level 4 people that pop in. But I won't make you guys wait. We'll get right into it. So my first victims are going to be Aaron, Tiana, and Omar. You guys are all on deck. And if you guys are just catching this and you want to get a reading, scan the QR code. Don't forget to put your specific question in the memo box, please. And if you do want to be known as somebody who is, I guess, anonymous, please put that right at the top of the memo so I can see it. Because sometimes I don't see it. All right, let's go ahead and get started with Aaron. Let's see what Aaron has to say. Aaron pops in and says, hey, you did a reading for me last week with the astrology, but I love a tarot for this ongoing situation with my Scorpio ex. I'm a Cap Sun, Libra rising with Aries moon and Sag Venus. He's a Scorpio sun, Venus retrograde, Aries moon, Venus Mercury, no contact for about a year. We've been together for 15. Well, I could see definitely for you, as a Libra rising, you're like, where are my relationships going? Is this the end, or is somebody going to be initiating some new cycle? So let's see what we can tell Amanda about her and her ex, and whether or not there is anything that's going to be happening between the two of them after they've been kind of disconnected for a year, no contact, but they were together for 15. All right, so let's see what the cards say. In this order, I get the 10 of Wands, the Lover's card, and the 9 of Cups. Well, I have to tell you, as a fellow Libra rising, really watching some of the transits that are going to be happening over like the next couple of months, because as you know, there's some heavy hitters that are going into your 7th house. So whether you're in a committed relationship, or if you're kind of disconnected, or if you're thinking about, you know, like getting back into the game, all the Libra risings are going to be kind of like, okay, I want something new in relationships. I really feel like with the 10 of Wands coming up, it's about you kind of looking at the situation, you know, and having been together obviously for 15 years, being like, we've been through so much, right? I don't want to give up. I don't want to just drop this and like walk away, because the 10 of Wands always faces this challenge of whether or not it feels like it can actually continue forward. And there's like some sense of feeling very dedicated and committed and unwilling to release something and let something go. So I do really feel like that 10 of Wands is saying that it's also not been easy, that there has been a lot that you have had to kind of deal with, or that you've had to kind of carry. It can mean that this has been weighing very heavy on your mind, and that you're really wanting to have some kind of clarity as to whether or not that this is done, or if you guys are going to be able to push through this period and actually be able to kind of complete some of the lessons that have been coming up, because 10s represent cycles. So the Lover's card comes up in the current position. So this can be indicating things changing, or some major kind of pivotal turning points that are going to be happening around transits that are going to deal with Gemini. Okay, so I think of you as like obviously a Libra rising. You may find that, you know, Uranus going back into Gemini in April, right, when it goes into that sign, that there's more clarity regarding what it is that you want, or that there is more clear communication in relationships, or you're keeping an open mind and you realize that relationships are not linear, that romance can kind of be all over the map, and that it can maybe kind of open the door to some kind of relationship or partnership. But this also represents, like, a lot of readers online will be like, oh, this is the twin flame card. And like, sure, okay, it can be talking about a soulmate connection. But it also talks about choices. So it talks about you being like, okay, I'm going to get to this point where I'm either going through some Gemini transits, or there's a Gemini new moon, you know, in like May or June, or you're going to see Mars coming into conjunction with Uranus and Gemini in early July. That's going to be like a fork in the road. And it's going to represent you kind of being like, am I going to go this way, or am I going to go that way? And I could definitely see with the Lover's card that this is also about you realizing that if you guys are meant to be, if it is meant to be that this is like your person, then they need to meet you halfway, because this is about matching energy and mirroring energy. So the lovers want to walk hand in hand. They want to, you know, be in relationship and partnership with each other. It does represent really showing up and like really being devoted to the other person. So if you're asking, oh, is there going to be a reconnection? Is there a possibility? I would say, yeah, I think that that is possible. I think you're also going to find that probably from the turn of like the eclipse that we're going to have in February, which is in your 5th house, is going to start getting you to think about, well, what do I love? What do I want in relationships? What's going to make me feel cherished? And it starts with you, because the 5th house is your hobbies, your creative ability, your self-expression, your self-love, and Mars will be there. So it's going to be activating where you're kind of taking the initiative to go after what you want, and you're not waiting for anybody else in the process. Then you'll go through some of the transits, you know, February through April, where the karma of relationships either getting reset or being restructured or fading away will happen. So you have to kind of get through that period, but it looks like there's some turning points when you start to see some Gemini transits, or possibly even a Gemini new moon. The final card is probably one of the better cards you could have pulled, the Nine of Cups. So you see like this like Lord sitting there, and he has all these cups in front of him, and he's just like got this grin on his face because he got everything that he wanted. And so it's interesting because it almost feels like at the start of the reading, you're like, I'm just about to give up. I don't know how much longer I can kind of carry this. This is heavy. Like I'm really attached to a certain outcome. And then you kind of start to kind of keep an open mind, take a step back and go, if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And if it is meant to be, then it's also realizing that part of your job is waiting for him to go through whatever he's going through to work out some of the funk, and then realize that like you're it. And a lot of this is knowing your worth, because the Nine of Cups is not about going and initiating anything. It's about being emotionally fulfilled and like knowing you got what you wanted in the end. And that in the end, it can actually be a really happy kind of connection and union. But you have to look at your astrology from the perspective of the 7th house being your partner. So if you're a Libra rising, you know, even if they're not a Aries rising, you could go and listen to Aries rising horoscopes, and it's going to give you an idea of anybody who you've been in relationship or partnership with and what they're going through. And certainly a lot of the themes in this next year are going to be, well, are we moving back in together? Are we starting over? Are we relocating? You know, are we building a home or a life or a family together? And I do think there is a good likelihood you can get what you want, but it does look like you've done enough, like you've done your part in this, and now you have to wait. So you have to wait for him to work out some of the kinks. You have to trust in the process. You also have to expect that it is very possible that somebody else could present themselves to you. And it's going to be a choice or a decision as to whether or not you're going to take the path of, you know, I guess like least resistance, or you're going to start something new with someone else, or if you're going to be holding out and seeing if he's ultimately going to, you know, work out some of his stuff and really have that joy and that union and that connection again. So it looks grim now, but I feel like I would at least give this until about June, and I would not be trying to feel like you have to actively do anything. See if he comes around, and know that in the end, relationship-wise, you're going to get what you want, but I do think there's going to be another person that's going to appear. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Erin. What's up, Tiana? Happy Friday. All right, so we've got Miss Tiana, and then we've got Omar. And if you guys are just popping in, you can get in the queue. So we've got Tiana who says, Candace, I know things are about to get wild. I can feel it. Pisces rising, Aries sun, Sag moon. Ooh. So it's almost like you're graduating from your Saturn-Neptune transit, and then you're still going through a Saturn-Neptune transit as an Aries sun. My North Node is going to be conjunct Saturn, and it's already on my ascendant, or the North Node is going to be conjunct my Saturn. It's already on my ascendant. Give me the tea for February. Is the universe going to blow up my life, or will I have to? Man, coming out of your Saturn return and then having the transit North Node conjunct your Saturn is almost like a Saturn return on steroids. It feels like it's just like extended. I had that too. I had my Saturn return in Capricorn, and then I had Saturn on my North Node. So I was like, so let's take a look. What's in store for Tiana? She's feeling the change, and she wants to know what she needs to be aware of in February. I wouldn't say that the universe is going to blow up your life. I would say the North Node conjunct your Saturn is actually a great transit. You're going to see how much you've kind of grown and matured and become self-sufficient. It's going to activate Jupiter in your 5th. So we've got the 5 of Cups, the King of Swords, and we have got the 7 of Wands. Like I said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All right, so basically the past card, the 5 of Cups, I think that there's going to be a lot of kind of like reminiscing, mourning, being in your feelings, thinking about the past, trying to find the words. Like that's going to come up a lot. And that's very much the 5 of Cups. You have to be careful with this card. I always say, like, there's no use crying over spilled milk. The stuff that has happened. You can't kind of like marinate on that for too long, because if you do, you can get stuck there and you can find that you're kind of like in a bit of a funk. Naturally, when the North Node is conjunct your Saturn, it's positive because it means it's going to really enhance some of the themes revolving around what Saturn represents for you. So in the 1st house is going to be independence, boundaries, self-sufficiency. Obviously, it's going to also be tied to your money and your resources. It's your 2nd house ruler. It's also going to be tied to anything that deals with your goals, right? Because Capricorn is associated also with your, with your 11th house. So when I go back and forth and I look at the cards, it's like, all right, rather than kind of focusing on what hasn't worked, what fell apart, what didn't happen, you have to give yourself credit for what you have been able to achieve and like be, I think, aware that your mood is going to fluctuate a little bit. Pisces is inherently moody. It is, because it's a water sign, it's a mutable water sign, and we're going to see the second half of February, Mercury is going to go retrograde through Pisces. So we'll actually see, I think the Mercury retrograde shadow starts around like the 8th or the 9th of February. So even though it won't be until the end of the month, Mercury rules for you, okay, your home and the past and your family and also relationships. So it's very reminiscent of like the spring of 2025 when we had like a Virgo eclipse and then Mercury went retrograde in your sign. And it was like, am I getting in and out of a relationship? Am I moving? Like what's changing? And so I think a lot of that stuff of what has changed, what still needs to change, things that you're kind of disappointed about may come up. But the sequence of the cards kind of shifting away from like that heavy vibe of the past to the present, being present in the now, finding your voice is very much a theme with the King of Swords. It can also mean that there is some kind of like, relationship dynamic that's going on with an air sign. So be that a Libra, an Aquarius, or a Gemini, or just a conversation that you have with somebody that really turns a page for you. It can also mean that you're feeling a little bit more bold and confident. I like that the King of Swords is channeling this masculine energy of sticking up for yourself, speaking for yourself, drawing the boundary, right? Swords are used to draw the line in the sand. It's like, don't cross that. If you do, I have a weapon. So maybe you're going to find that there are some breakthroughs in how you're communicating and like really sticking to the program. If you're making commitments to things that you know that you need to be doing for yourself, and I would say specifically for like a Pisces rising, it's going to be not isolating yourself, watching for self-sabotage and bad habits. It's also going to be, having some boundaries maybe with family or with relationships during the retrograde. It could also mean that this is a huge turning point where you feel like you have become aware of what your new goal is. And every sign will see this when Saturn goes into Aries. There's going to be this sense of you guys being like, I now need to take initiative here. So for a lot of my Pisces risings, it's going to be this very kind of pick yourself up by the bootstraps, getting serious when it comes to making money, getting serious when it comes to knowing your worth, making changes in your values, really crunching when it comes to your budget. But I think you're going to be able to uphold some of those changes. And I think that I would really focus on that Aries energy that's getting channeled through the Saturn-Neptune transit. Obviously, moving through your second house, which is going to be my values, my resources, my needs, and like doing it yourself. So I think there's gonna be a lot more communicating some of that stuff and maybe being a little bit more diligent with maybe budgeting and expenses. I would say that for a lot of Pisces risings, that's gonna be a huge theme for the next 4 months. I also think that the final card being the Seven of Wands is good because you're moving away from kind of sad cups to, okay, I've got a bright idea, or there's something I'm gonna start, or I'm gonna initiate, or there's something I'm gonna write, or I'm gonna be talking about, or I'm signing something. And like a lot of it is getting channeled. And then there's this momentum that's going to start to build. And that's what Aries energy does. That's why I think a lot of Pisces risings are like, ooh, something's coming, because they can feel, they're going to pick up on what's going on with the collective before a lot of other people. Now, Seven of Wands is standing your ground, not backing down, being competitive, being fierce. This is also about, I think, being willing to kind of take on a challenge, right? So that challenge for you is probably going to be Saturn going into your sun sign. So if you think about being a Pisces rising, the sun is associated with your 6th house. So, I think the sun-Saturn transit can be wonderful in the 2nd house. Like I think about when I had that transit and I have a bunch of planets in my 2nd house. It was grueling when I went through it, but it was in Scorpio. The sun is exalted in Aries. So I think this is going to be about you being like, I can be a self-starter, or I can start a business, or I can tap into something creative, and maybe finding a way to like make it competitive, like how, finding ways to maybe organize your routine, feel like you are making smart decisions with your health, feel like you're being more assertive when it comes to where you're kind of dedicating your time or your resources, and like making a game out of it. Because I think if you do it that way, and you see just exactly how much you can save, or how much you can be kind of building or accumulating, or how you're, kind of getting a little bit more crafty, you're probably going to be making more money by the end of the transit. Now, it'll be there for about 2.5 years. But I will see a lot of Pisces and Pisces risings that are going to have huge career changes, I think, just as a result of Jupiter going into their 6th house. And you'll see that the second half of the year. So it's about keeping up the momentum, right? Keeping up the motivation and like not backing down. And I think encouraging yourself to kind of push the limits, where I think it's fair to say for a lot of Pisces and Pisces risings the last 2 or 3 years, you guys have gotten to coast. You guys have gotten to just withdraw, or you have been focusing on emotional healing, or you've been focusing on just kind of like getting out of some of the messy stuff that's been happening in relationships, or maybe some changes that has been kind of happening on the home front. And so literally what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think a lot of the experiences that you've had in 2025 were almost the precursor for what was going to come in 2026. So you're a little bit wiser. You have a little bit more kind of strategy now to think about where you want to go. And I would say it's pretty much full speed ahead until you're getting into the summer. And if you stick with it, you're going to feel, I think, very fulfilled and very satisfied that you're able to kind of like build something and become more self-sufficient. Great reading. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. She says, I feel it. Yeah, all my Pisces have been contacting me being like, what's coming? Something's coming. I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me that. Oh, all right. Let's see who we've got next. We've got Omar, Vanessa, and Corey. And if you guys are just tapping in, you want to get a reading, you can scan the QR code up here and that will get you in my queue. Rachel, I saw you join the queue. Thank you. I can see you there. All right, Omar. Let's see what Omar has to say. Hi, Candace. I just wanted to know what major themes will come up in the month of February for me. I'm a Libra rising, Sagittarius sun, Taurus moon. I would have to say the Libra risings are a bit hit and miss. Positive is going to be that you're going to see that solar eclipse in your 5th house. So that's great for romance, having fun, risking things, taking chances, new hobbies, gambling. What's not so fun will be the Saturn-Neptune conjunction around the 20th, especially if you are an early degree Libra rising. So about 0 to 5 degrees, there's going to be some holy shift moments in relationships. But let's see what the cards have to say, Omar. So what does he need to know about February? We've got the Queen of Pentacles, the 6 of Pentacles, the World card. Well, you have been blessed in February, that's for sure. I'd keep a lookout for anybody who's going to want to connect and collaborate with you. And this could be financially. This could also be in terms of like your professional type of stuff. Like there could be a partnership energy that can be coming up through Saturn going into your 7th house. I've seen a lot of Libras and Libra risings that are suddenly like, oh, now I want a business partner, or somebody asked me to work with them, or somebody asked me to collaborate. Sometimes it's about working with managers. Other times it's just going to be about feeling like you suddenly want to have something that you offer other people, right? So it could be a service, it could be something like that. But the Queen of Coins comes up. So I would either keep an eye out for an older, kind of wiser woman, or somebody who's an earth sign. So Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. This can be somebody who's coming in to assist you in some way. So it can almost act like a mentorship, or this can be somebody who is wanting to kind of guide you when it comes to your career or business related matters. Could be like a manager. It could be like a career counselor. This could be a therapist. This could be an older woman who's like a friend or a family member. And it looks to me like they're wanting to give you some like advice, because she's very wise. She nurtures, she focuses on health, she focuses on habits. Perhaps that can also be part of the Mercury retrograde that's going to be happening for you in Pisces at the end of the month. So a lot of Libra risings are going to have to realize that like their health needs to be checked, right? The North Node's still going to be in the 6th house, at least until the summer. And then you'll see an eclipse in early March that's kind of highlighting where Libra risings are doing too much. So maybe it's working with like a doctor or a dietitian. Maybe it's somebody who gives you a health tip or a financial tip. But the 6 of Pentacles is a great card, because this is still talking about health, money, resources, business. And this is about an exchange. So it's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Or I'll give you this if you do that. And it's like somebody who wants to help you. And it's about giving and receiving. So you may feel like you're very, very, very fulfilled or blessed because somebody has come into your life that's giving you a golden opportunity. Now, you're going to have to work for it. It's not going to be free. But it does seem like this will be something that can be very beneficial for you, and it can help you start to kind of focus more on what's going to make you happy. I think a lot of Libra risings are thinking about that. I think that with the eclipses in the 5th house, it's foreshadowing, you know, for the next 2 years, Pluto going through the 5th house, you know, maybe willing to take more creative risks or risks when it comes to self-employment or with trading or finances. And then I also think about how the North Node is then going to move there over the summertime. So, you know, if you've been thinking about some creative ventures or maybe making some moves with investments or maybe making some changes with your health, look for this person who's going to come through and give you some like words of wisdom. And the World card is the last card that comes up in the major arcana. So it represents cycles completing, things flushing out, new things coming in. So this can mean that you're about to be kind of blessed with something that can be very beneficial for you. It can also mean that you're finally upgrading when it comes to your health, your finances, or your self-care. And so because you have been willing to make these sacrifices, you're being rewarded and cycles are coming to a close. But it's also meaning that this can open the door to travel. This can open the door to fortune. This can bring you also some kind of positive karmic things. And so I think that a lot of people like look at eclipses as karmic times, and they are, but they take time to unfold. I would be watching what happens with the Mercury retrograde, because that can mean that there is a better job opportunity or a new schedule that comes in. I would also be watching Saturn going into your 7th house, basically starting right around, you know, I think it's like the 10th, 15th maybe of February. And it can represent a karmic relationship with an older person. So it can be saying that it might be the Queen of Coins that's kind of coming up. You'll start to see the dust settle a little bit in March when we have another eclipse and a retrograde. But health, productivity, making time for things you enjoy, being willing to take risks, and getting some advice seems to be the themes. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Omar. All right, we've got Vanessa. What's up, Vanessa? She said 3 cards. I finally found an apartment after years of looking. I'm supposed to sign the lease on Sunday. Is this a wise decision? I'm very nervous. Will I get along with the owner and the neighbor behind me? It's a duplex. Do you see any issues? Give me the details. And I got the other message from you where you were asking about if your supervisor, the Cancer, likes you. Okay, so what I will do is I will pull the 2 cards on the duplex and the move, and then we'll do one that's going to be on what's going on with the manager. Okay, so no, Amanda, you have about 2 readings, and then you're next. All right, so what can we tell her about what's going on with this move? I think it's very timely, knowing your chart, now that you're coming into like Saturn opposed Saturn. That's usually when you're like, oh, I'm changing, because Saturn's in your 4th house, so you're changing your home, and could be career changes too. Let's take a look and see what the cards say. So does it look like this move to this duplex is good? What can you tell us about her getting along with the residents and the landlord? You get the Ace of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. Not a bad spread. I know, because I know your astrology, that in the fall there is going to be like a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde that's going to happen right around your 4th house. So if you are not crazy about something, or you want to make a change, or there's going to be some shift going on with the neighbors and stuff, it could happen then. Think back to what happened in like October, November of 2018. I don't know if you had a move then. But Ace of Pentacles is like, I would want to pull this card. You know, if I wanted to know, hey, is this going to be a good move? Is it going to be worth the money? Is it secure? Is it going to be stable? The Ace of Pentacles basically says yes. It is saying at minimum, likely you'll be there for at least a year. It also talks about getting more bang for your buck, and that what you're putting into it is what you're going to get out of it. It can also mean that this is like solid shelter. It's stable, like it's going to be peaceful. Nobody's going to be bothering you. There isn't going to be any issues. And I know you've had a lot of issues with your neighbors as you had like those South Node eclipses going through your 3rd. So obviously I think about going into the beginning of March, you know, you're going to have an eclipse in your 3rd house. So that could also mean that you're in the midst of the move. And if you're going to sign the lease, ideally you're signing the lease before like the 8th or the 9th. That would be a good idea. I think that this does seem to kind of suggest that likely within the next month, you're going to see the transition, you're going to have the move. And the Page of Pentacles is saying it can be really beneficial for your daughter, because that can be like a child that you have or a younger person. It can also mean that this is a good fresh start, right? Like you're going to have the opportunity to like go into something and not feel like you have any ties or history or anything new. Like you can literally like start brand new. I have lived at my place for 20 years. Wow. That's a whole nodal cycle. So actually, yeah, 18, 19, 20 years ago is when you last moved. So yeah, it's a good move. I'm supposed to sign lease on Sunday. I mean, I feel really good about it. I think that both the ace and the page represent new beginnings. Interestingly enough, like, you know, the Ace of Pentacles coming up is saying, yeah, you might have to pay a little cash up front for moving and then paying a deposit or doing whatever you're doing. And you might feel like it's a little bit more than, you know, you want to spend. But in the long term, you know, the Page of Coins means that this could be something that would allow you the ability to actually save money. And I don't know if it's more, if it's along the same lines of what you're paying. It might mean that also, like, this is a good start, and maybe you're like, at the very minimum, I want to stay here for a couple of years, but, you know, maybe I'm starting to think about saving or what I want to have on the background to start, you know, moving forward and thinking about owning something or having something that's going to be more permanent. But I do think that this is a good move. Both of the cards are wonderful. It is talking about making these decisions that are financially sound, and it's also saying it's going to be stable. And also that it's going to be peaceful. And I think that's the big reason why you're moving, is because there's been so many kind of like disturbances with people that are around you. I do also like the fact that the Page of Wands can be somebody who can make changes to the space, right? So you may have like a landlord that's like, if you want to paint the walls, I don't care. You know, if you want to hang up like curtains, whatever, like if you want to put holes in the walls, that's fine. Just like fix it, patch it whenever you're done. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of like create the space in your own way. She says it's $35 more, and I like to say long-term, it's like a little house. Yeah. And obviously, you know, like the Page of Coins is saying it's just the opportunity to kind of feel like you can have or put your mark on your space is really what's worth it. So if you're getting something that's like $35 more, you know, in Southern California, and it's something that's freestanding and it's your own little spot, that's a good move. I do think that the Ace of Coins is saying that this is going to start inspiring, you know, like also making you think about, wow, this is nice. I'd like to have something like this of my own. Or maybe there's going to be some opportunity in the future that's like a rent to own scenario that could convert. Or maybe you're going to start thinking about, well, okay, I want to be here for a while. So now I'm going to be making purchases and getting new furniture. I'm getting new decor. And it's okay to do that stuff, because I do think you're going to be there for a while. All right, so let's see what we need to know about the manager, who's the Cancer. Can't quite read her, can't quite see what her deal is and whether or not she likes you. Not a very helpful card. We get the Seven of Cups. Okay, the bottom card was the Ten of Pentacles, by the way, so not a bad confirmation card. I think with the Seven of Cups, I mean, this is like, whenever you want to get a clear answer from the tarot and you get this card, it's like the jury's still out. It does make me feel like she's hard to read, or there can be a sense in some certain scenarios she seems cool, and then other ones she seems like a little different, or you feel like her mood is shifting, or that she's just kind of like hot and cold. It can also mean that you have to be mindful of like not letting things like get in your head, like not making assumptions or just assuming the worst, or just assuming that somebody doesn't like you. Like, don't let that happen. With the Ten of Coins, you know, being the confirmation card for this, it's saying bottom line is you're stable, you're secure in your position, you're not going anywhere. I do think what she really cares about is people who seem dedicated to the job and people who are doing a good job and who want to stay. What she does have an issue with is if she feels like people are not trustworthy, or if people are not being clear when it comes to, you know, their duties and getting things done and taking accountability. And even though she's hard to read, I don't see any issues with her not liking you. I just think that she's probably really cautious about keeping boundaries and like not trying to get close to anybody at work. But I do think that you're solid. You don't have anything to worry about, but like her mood can shift a lot, because this represents like cloudedness and things coming in that can be kind of distorted and not seeing very clearly. And then you're like, oh my God, like, is there something I'm doing? And like, it's literally just her personality. Like, her personality is not very kind of like warm or open. And there can be a sense of like detachment or aloofness with this card. But as long as you're showing up, you're doing your job, you're not going to have any issues. And it looks like you have security. And I would say, don't get in your head at assuming that she doesn't like you, or that somebody's got it out for you. This is just somebody who personality-wise is not really very friendly or very, I think, transparent or kind of open, you know, with people at work. Hopefully that gives you the clarity that you need. All right, we've got Corey, we've got Amanda, we've got Kimberly, we've got Rachel. Let's see, did anybody else sneak in there? All right, and I've got like PayPal PTSD. I have to like double and triple check and make sure that there isn't anybody that I'm missing. Okay, we're good. All right. So let's go to Corey. Good luck with your move, Vanessa. All right, so Corey says, I am dating on and off the last 2 years. Okay, hold on. Girlfriend and I that have been dating on and off for the last 2 years, but she's pulled away again during the holidays. Hardly seen each other and sporadic communication. January 18th was very bizarre. What's up between us? Where is this going? So you are a Cancer Sun, Gemini Rising, Sag Moon, and she is a Virgo Sun, Libra Rising, Aries Moons. Are the Libra Risings, Aries Moons okay? I feel like all of them are either going. I feel like have completely like been ghosted, or I'm not getting through to somebody, or they won't talk to me, or it's the other way around. You're seeing a lot of Libra Risings with that aspect that's just like, I don't really care anymore. Like, and not wanting to engage with partners. So let's take a look. I hope you were listening, Corey, when I said that a lot of Libra risings can be kind of like projecting that they assume something is wrong, and really like they're just projecting what the partner is kind of giving them. So let's see. So what can we tell him about him and his partner? We have got the Knight of Cups, the Judgment card, and the Five of Cups. January 18th was especially crazy. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, she's Libra rising. She had a new moon that was squaring her ascendant, and also conjunct Venus was conjunct, I think, all those planets, and it was squaring her moon. It was not fun, right? You have to also think about what's going on with your 7th house ruler, because that is going to tell you a lot. So if you are a Gemini rising and you've got a Sagittarius moon, I don't know if it's in the 7th house, but very much relationship oriented. So is she. She has a 7th house moon too. But what you're seeing is like things have been kind of off since the retrograde over the fall in Sagittarius. And now you've got Jupiter, which rules your 7th, that is moving through, your natal 2nd house. So you really want security in a relationship. You want to feel emotionally secure, and Jupiter's retrograde. So you may not see a lot of that until Jupiter's going direct closer to about, sometime in mid-March. I think you're doing everything that you can. I think with the Knight of Cups coming up, it means that you're like, I'm trying to be compassionate. I'm trying to be understanding. I'm doing everything I can. Like, what's wrong? Like, what's the problem? And it's very frustrating for you. And it's also in opposition, it's in conjunction, obviously, to, your sun. So it's making you feel extra vulnerable and extra probably rejected. And like, I love the Knight of Cups because it's somebody who's willing to wear their heart on their sleeve, and they're doing everything that they can to show somebody else that they care. So you're really moving towards being like, look, let's work this out. Let's find a solution. Like, I'm trying here. Give me something. And the Judgment card is kind of feeling like there are some things that have happened that feels like it's a definitive turning point, so to say. I could say on one hand, Libra risings are going to be experiencing with Saturn and Neptune going into the 7th, where they are learning to be less codependent with relationships. I could see that. But I could also see some, depending on the aspects in her chart, some partners being like, you know what, I'm sick of your shit, or, I just want to do my own thing. And like, they may create boundaries as well. And there's a lot of confusion happening with Libra rising charts where they don't know where the future is going in a relationship and whether or not there is like a merger of the home. So it's like, are we moving in together or not? Are we buying a house or not? Are we getting married or not? And these things are going to be dealt with like over the immediate next 2 to 3 months. You're going to see pretty much from mid-February until April, there's going to be some determination and conclusion. And Saturn going through her 7th is going to determine whether or not she feels like a relationship or a partner has the chops to do these things. So the Judgment card makes sense. I'm just catching up. She was out of town and called me at 3 a.m. in the morning to book her a flight last minute in the middle of the night to get home, then skipped the flight and didn't tell me. So, I could definitely see that maybe that's one of the things where you're like, okay, like she's asking me to do some stuff for her and I'm trying to be there and I'm trying to save the day, and I made the decision to just, override some of the issues that we've had and kind of put myself out there and like help her or rescue her in some way. Five of Cups is not a great ending. This can mean that there's disappointment, that you feel like a lot of the things that you're doing, trying to kind of save the relationship or trying to show her that you care, trying to show her that you can make this work, is leaving you kind of feeling like you're holding the bag emotionally. And that's come up in a previous reading tonight where you heard me say, like, there are things that have already happened and you cannot marinate on that. Like, you guys are going to have to find a new way forward, or you're going to feel like if there isn't a way forward or there isn't more accountability in your guys' relationships, then there's no dice. Obviously, you know, like I said, until you see some nice aspects with Jupiter, likely you're not going to see a lot of things that are going to be changing, you know, in relationship land. Now, you'll start seeing July, August, September, as planets are coming into conjunction with Jupiter. You'll probably have better communication in relationships. You're probably going to have more clarity. You're probably going to be feeling like you guys can kind of come and go or move or travel. But the Five of Cups is saying you're really kind of hurt and you feel that this person is not, almost like they're taking you for granted. He said, when she called in the middle of the night, she was so upset and I felt sorry and booked the flight. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this is saying there's a definitive ending coming, but I do think that you're probably going to get to a point where you're feeling like you're tired of overextending yourself and not like constantly making yourself available or trying to fix problems. And she's probably going to be realizing through some of the transits that she's going to burn you out a little bit. That's what's going to happen. You also have to go and look at what's happening to your natal Jupiter. That's going to give you a little bit more insight to what's kind of taking place there. But I could see as like a Gemini rising with like Uranus going into your sign, like you're going to get to a point where you're going to be like, that's it. You know, like you're just going to become more kind of like cut and dry and kind of direct with people about whether or not you want to continue to kind of keep going back and forth, or if you're just going to be indifferent and you're going to start traveling yourself, or you're going to start, you know, considering meeting other people. Not something that you want to do, maybe obviously with, you know, Cancer Sun in the second, but I really want you to think long and hard while Jupiter is going through your transits. It's not so much about, well, what did I spend on her? Because that's how it can manifest in the second house. It's more, why am I investing so much emotionally into this relationship? And why am I putting so much time, effort, and resources into somebody where I feel like I'm being treated like an option? And that's what's going to come up for you. And I feel like I wouldn't get stuck in the, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I would just say, you know what, there's been enough of these situations that's happened where it's gotten to a point where I'm starting to realize that I feel like I'm being taken for granted. And then you're going to do something about it. But you can't constantly be at her beck and call when she's going through a crisis, because it's always kind of leading you to a point where you're feeling like you're taking it in the shorts. And I think that this was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, because it does look like there hasn't really been great communication back and forth since then, like little to no accountability or apologies or anything. And it's not just about her behavior, it's also about worrying you. Because to me, it looks like you're constantly worrying and trying to figure out what you can do to rectify the situation. And I think what she's realizing is that she has not really created the necessary boundaries that she needs to create in her life. And so now it's trickling into her relationships, and like she's kind of taking it out on you. So is it definitively over? I mean, the death card's not coming up, but the judgment card is saying if you don't like the way that this feels, you're going to be changing, I guess, your response. And I would say don't run to her. Don't rush to her rescue. Don't do that. Thank you, Corey. I know it's difficult, but trust me on this. Like, something's getting reset in February, and you're going to see that also manifest again in April, and that's going to be the real turning point. So I think with Mars and Saturn and the Sun and Venus all going through the 7th house, it's like, my God, a lot of karma in relationships is going to happen for Libra risings. And for you, I think it's going to be good because, well, it's going through your 10th house. So it's going to be more about you being kind of like assertive, right? Oh no, you're a Gemini rising. I take that back. It's going to go through your 11th house. But it may be, if you're Placid, it's still be going through your 10th house. So the Cancer Sun's going to pick up on that energy for sure. Let me know what happens around that conjunction next month. Good luck. If you guys are just tapping in, you want to get a reading, scan the QR code right there. It'll take you to my PayPal. We're doing 1-card readings for $20, 3-card readings for $40. I've got Amanda, Kimberly, Rachel. All right, Amanda, my dear, the 29-degree Virgo rising, Cap Sun. She says, my 3.5-year relationship from the Sag rising, Cancer Sun ended last month. He's with somebody else already and rebounding. I'm sure. Please pull cards on what the energy is surrounding my next romantic relationship. How can I best align with timing? Thank you. What's up? Caramel passion? All right, well, let's see what we can tell Amanda. You are in the final moments of this Saturn-Neptune transit, girl. It has been brutal for my Virgo risings. What can we tell her about the next steps? Who's she aligning with? What's the timing? Is there relationship energy on the horizon? Page of Coins, Queen of Coins, Queen of Cups. You got a full house. Very interesting. First of all, I kind of get the impression that this is going to represent like community. Because you got a lot of like women that are kind of hanging around right now. So like, I know you're Virgo, rising, barely. But I think about like the Jupiter transit that's going to be going through your 11th house. That's going to be really highlighting that connection that you're going to have with friends. And like the more that you're connected to community and like other strong, successful, empathic, creative, hardworking women, the more support you're going to have. And especially when your 7th house ruler is going through your 11th house, it means that if you want to meet people, you got to socialize. You're going to have to get out there and join networks, make friends, do that kind of stuff. So something to think about. Page of Coins represents a new beginning, okay? So it can mean that a seed is being planted. So it can mean you're now investing in yourself, you're eating better, you're taking better care of yourself, you're focusing on your physical health, you're focusing on your finances, and that something is being initiated now. And what I like is that we see a progression from a page to a queen and then a queen. And sometimes the family that deals with the pentacles, because it's like the earthly element, is that embodiment of Virgo energy, right? Capricorn energy, which is what a lot of your chart is kind of made up of, right? Yeah, Virgo rising, Cap Sun. So I think from like the Capricorn perspective, if you hear, oh, Jupiter's in Cancer, it's in opposition to your sun, it's basically saying, it's pointing you in the direction of, you know, what do you want to change when it comes to your identity or your, you know, kind of career out in the world? Do you want to be a CEO? Do you want to be somebody's girlfriend? Do you want to be somebody's wife? Do you want to be a mother? You know, and it's I use these kind of terms because it is going to be more feminine, because that's what Cancer is. So this relationship and the time, because the pentacles can be time, and the amount of energy and the effort that you put into this made you realize, like, I'm not just planting seeds anywhere again. I'm not doing 3.5 years with somebody again. You know, I'm not doing that. And like really having this renewal of knowing your worth and being very cautious where you decide to plant future relationship seeds. And so you're starting there. And I think that might come from support and help from other women. Now we have this progression from what is a page who's just learning their value to a queen, which can represent, okay, now this is actually being actualized. Taking better care of yourself, looking better, feeling better, feeling like some of the work that you've been putting into yourself is now really starting to materialize as being like, yeah, now I am calling in a different vibrational energy. And you will also see that because you're going to see Saturn and Neptune still in your 7th house, but it's going to change degrees. It's going to change signs. So you want to be watching like mid-February through April, because that energy is still going through your 7th house. So you are going to be bringing in somebody new. However, I feel like it may be that there is a lot of advice that's coming your way, and that could be from, you know, 7th house is a therapist, an astrologer, it could be, you know, a friend, it could be a family member, whatever, and that you're going to be really tapping into the energy of Saturn where you're going, I'm dating with purpose, right? There's something I want to create, and maybe you're going to be approaching dating in a more kind of transactional way, that is like, okay, who are you? What are you all about? Like, are you employed? Like, you know, are you stable? Do you have a job? Cool. Are you healthy? You know, and there's almost like this kind of like interview that kind of like takes place maybe with some of the interactions that you're gonna have with people that you're meeting, but dating with purpose is definitely a theme. I will tell you that knowing that you're gonna have like the Mercury retrograde that's gonna be happening in Pisces, and that'll be kind of like the 3rd week of February into mid-March, for a Virgo rising is like the last hurrah, because it's just kind of like, okay, if this is done, it's really got to be done. And if they don't come back, or if we don't get clarity or whatever, then like I'm closing this chapter for good. And you actually want to treat it that way, because Saturn and Neptune will have officially left Pisces. So Pisces is confusing. They don't know what they want. It can represent ghosting. It could represent, you know, playing the victim and kind of being isolated. And then when it goes into Aries, you're going to see an opportunity to either see a renewal of somebody who's like finally willing to show up and they're there immediately and like they're taking accountability and they're acting mature, or you're just going to see somebody new that's going to arrive. And so I like that the Queen of Pentacles is coming up because it's saying like I'm really beefing up my boundaries and I'm becoming more aware of my time, my values. And I think you're going to get a lot of support from women who are going to help instill that in you. And then you have the Queen of Cups. So this represents the opportunity to opening to new relationships. So it may mean that you're like, look, I'm ready, right? I'm ready. But it can also mean that there is like this softening that starts to happen. And I think you're going to see that a little bit more in Pisces season. So February into about March, where you're like, I don't know, I'm really open to the idea of love. And I really just want this romantic connection. And I'm like ready for it. And you're like idealizing the concept and the idea of somebody kind of coming in. And like, you know, I will say part of the effects of Saturn in the 7th house, even though it's not great in Aries, is Saturn is exalted in Libra. So it's going to do well in the 7th house. It can bring people who are suddenly like, I'm ready. And you're like, whoa, I thought it was going to take much faster to meet somebody and like get what I want. And how was I with somebody for 3.5 years that couldn't give me what I want, and then I meet somebody within a few months, they're like, okay, let's do this. You know, time does not matter. That's the one thing that you need to realize is that time is an illusion. Saturn and Neptune is going to be readjusting everything in regards to how we look at time. So don't focus so much on the timeline. Focus more on when the energy shifts and emotionally you're like, oh, okay, I say I'm ready, but maybe I'm not actually ready yet. And it can mean that you're starting to be a little bit more cautious in how you're engaging with people. Then you're connecting with people more in kind of like March and April in the spring. And then there's this blossoming that can kind of happen of relationships. Usually when Saturn leaves a house, he leaves a gift, right? And so you're one of the rare kind of people that I would say, because Saturn's not really leaving a house, he's finishing off what he started. You still have about a 2-year window where you're going to see something that can kind of bloom and evolve. So you have to go and look at what's going on with transit Jupiter. You know, it's going to trine Saturn at the end of summer. What's going on with your natal Jupiter? You have to see what planets are aspecting that. But the Queen of Cups is talking about you being like, okay, now that I have kind of bulked up what I need to keep me grounded, I'm now more so opening to relationships. And it does look like there's going to be a relationship. But to me, it looks like it's going to be a slow burn, or it's going to be more about the community that you're building around you. So you're not losing yourself to a relationship again and getting consumed with a relationship or somebody who's going to kind of get you off your path. So you want to watch what happens after the Mercury retrograde in February. You want to watch what happens after the eclipse that's going to be happening in early March. Then you're going to see some real defining moments that are going to be happening in about April. And I think that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of really great opportunities for you to meet somebody new. But there's also still this hurdle of having to kind of get over the past for the better part of like the next like month and a half. So keep solid people around you. She says, yes, I wanted to get married. And even though I thought my ex and I were headed that way, but he was just talk. Yeah, I mean, you know, she said, I joined the gym. My ex was all talk and no action. I mean, and that's the thing is that's what I look forward to with Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is I'm like, okay, are we going to start seeing action? Especially if you have that going through the 7th house, are you going to start seeing people taking accountability, right? And you'll also find that working with therapists, working with coaches, working with mentors, these people are going to be like, figure it out. Everybody's going to be very direct in between the eyes when all these planets go into Aries, which I like. So I think that it's going to be good. And I'm seeing it in my practice too, because I have obviously 7th house is my clients. So I'm seeing a lot of people that are like, you know, spiraling out. And I'm just like, I'm not going to keep taking your money and giving you the same advice over and over again. Like go and work on your shit, come back in 6 months, you know? And that's how I'm starting to handle things now, is because I'm just like, figure it out. You have to figure it out. You have to be able to do it yourself, you know? So I think that I would be more than willing to turn people away who you feel like is actually draining you. And when you see people that are like, but I can't, and I'm not ready, and I can't do this, and I'm scared, or you made me do this, I'd be like, there's the door, bye. And it's going to hold that space as you're getting into April when you start to see those transits. I know actually the Mercury, Saturn, Mars conjunction that's going to happen, I think, in April will all be around 7 degrees. So in your 7th house, it means there's going to be some kind of come to Jesus moment that you're going to have with another person. And that could very well mean he comes back around. But I hope that the Mercury Saturn is you being like, you're not good enough. No. Right? And you're probably going to have to be stern with somebody is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So keep good community around you. Virgo rising, same. All right, so let me know, Amanda. I can't wait to hear it happens around like the eclipses and those retrogrades. All right, we've got Kimberly and Miss Rachel. We're going to call final call. So if you guys want to get in now. We'll put a couple minutes on the clock. All right, Kimberly, what's up, girl? She says, one card pull. What do my guides want me to know? Divinely guided. I love that. It's something my mentor always used to say. Divinely directed, divinely protected. All right, let's take a look. Most likely, yes. Most likely, yes, because you're going to see that it has connections to Saturn, which is karma. So it will be probably you being like, I don't really care what your excuse is. I don't want to talk. That's what I would assume. All right, so let's tell Kimberly, what does she need to know? What do her guides want you to know? This card again? I feel like we're going to see this card a lot over the next month or so because it's just kind of like, it's time, you know? The Judgment card is just like, okay, are you getting to a point where you feel like you need to make a definitive decision? It's interesting because I like to compare this chart a lot to like the Justice card. Like the Justice card is more cause and effect. It's like, here's the karmic cause and effect. If you do this, this is what happens, right? Versus Judgment, that's like you kind of get to a point where you're sick of your own stuff and you're like, that's it. I have to finally make the commitment. I have to make the change. And this is also about things coming back up that need to be kind of shored up and dealt with. It's not a negative card, but like obviously if you see the Judgment card, you see all these like corpses that are like being resurrected and then the skies are kind of parting and the angels come out and it's like, well, if something is meant to be dealt with, it's going to be dealt with now. And we can sometimes feel like when the Judgment card is coming up that all these little things that we thought we dealt with, that we thought we kind of healed or put away or handled, come back from the dead like a zombie movie, right? And it's almost like they're resurrecting and kind of showing us that they've been living like rent-free in our head, or these are things that we have compartmentalized in ourselves that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't healed. I think that this is a cool card to be coming up around the time of eclipse season because I think it's really kind of bringing us to the precipice of being like, all right, there's this thing in my life that I know that I need to do. Obviously, it's going to be taking place in Aquarius, so I would look at where that's happening in your chart. But Aquarius is about the future, right? And the North Node is going into Aquarius too over the summer. So it's like, where do you see yourself going in the future? What do you need to wrap up now before we initiate and get into the new year? Which, by the way, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, I don't care what your calendars tell you, we are in the dead of winter. This is not the new year. The new year will not begin until we get to Aries season, and it is going to go off with a freaking bang. Saturn, Mars, Sun, Mercury, Venus, all moving through Aries. It's going to be like the new year that we can't even fathom. And then the lunar new year is going to be on the solar eclipse. So it's like full speed ahead pretty much as of mid next month. And then we're going to see another jolt forward after we get out of eclipses and Mercury retrograde. So I think there's something that needs to be wrapped up here, right? And so there's also like a lot of things that when you think about Aquarius as it represents, well, what do we need to start thinking about when it comes to the future? And Pisces says, okay, well, in order to do that, we have to kind of wrap some stuff up. We have to cycle some things out. And then Aries goes, hi, I'm going to initiate that. And so Aries picks up the energy of where Pisces left off. So for a lot of us with the North Node having been in Pisces, Neptune being in Pisces, you know, Saturn being in Pisces, like we've been asleep at the wheel. And we've been so overwhelmed with what's been going on and we've been distracted that we haven't been able to get things done. And so I think that this might mean that there's going to be some clarity that's going to come for you, especially over the next month. And it's going to be things that you're like, man, I didn't think that I still had that hurt, or maybe I didn't think that was that big of a deal, or, oh, there's that goal or that dream that I kind of put on the back burner. And now it's like, I have to go back and have to do that. And it's saying the time is now. So you're being not pressured, but you're being kind of given this gentle nudge to start listening to some of those things and recognizing that in order for you to really start new, you have to deal with some of the things from the past. And it might seem scary or it might seem overwhelming, but like this is the time of clearing karma. I think February is such a great month for clearing karma. So hopefully you're able to kind of move through that smoothly and it ends up being something that's positive for you and you're able to make some definitive decisions that allows you to have lasting change. All right, let's see Miss Rachel Parks. I tried to date, but I can't. Oh, Rachel, no. Will Pajama Guy heal and come and love me right, Rachel? All right. I saw Adriana get in there and Nancy got in there. I see you guys, don't worry. All right. She tried to date. What happened to the guy that came through? That seemed like Mr. Charming Cowboy. Virgo rising is here. PJ guy is a Cancer rising. I know, he's a Cancer rising with all that Aries. Oh, man. And Saturn's going to go into Aries. And all that stuff's going to go through that. Square his other stuff. You're welcome. All right, let's take a look. What can we tell Rachel? She tried to date. She wants to know, is Pajama Guy going to come back? Is he going to love her and treat her right? Why is it when I ask you things, you're acting very finicky and indifferent with me? What's the bottom card? Okay, I'm going to tell you the bottom card. The bottom card is the Five of Swords. As with all the Virgo risings, you guys are going to see some stuff that's going to massively shake out. You will see that happen over the next month and a half. Retrogrades, eclipses in Virgo and Pisces. So there's still some stuff that's going to shift. The Two of Swords is an interesting card because I think on the surface it feels like I can't make a decision, you know, I can't pick a side, I'm indecisive, I'm kind of back and forth, and maybe, but what is interesting is like the blindfold to me represents this sense of like really needing to be away from it all and really needing to take time to meditate, take time to be away maybe from him, to not have contact with him, to not be, you know, engaging with him. So it's like out of sight, out of mind. So you can really see what it's like not having him around, because I know that there can still be some comparison going on with this card. You're just kind of like, is it this or is it this? And do I stay with him hoping that he's going to change? And do I kind of close myself off? And I would say this is about staying in that place where if you continue to be indecisive, you may miss a window of opportunity. It could also mean that it's not smart to make a definitive decision right now because the situation is not clear. I do think that the Five of Swords coming up as the confirmation card is like a warning that if you feel like you're holding out for him, it may be several weeks or months down the road and he's going to be like, well, I mean, you know, I told you not to wait for me, you know, or I told you not to, you know, consider this to be a thing, or I told you I couldn't give you what you want. So you can't put yourself on hold here. Yeah, for sure, I got to stop with the communication because, and this isn't me saying this to like, you know, kind of like slap you on the wrist. It's like literally if he's in your mind, you're hearing his voice, you're going back and forth with him, it's not allowing you to think clearly. And just because maybe you take a break from communicating, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's over, right? It doesn't mean it's done. Maybe it means that you spend a week or two and kind of go, you know what, I'm just getting more into a routine. I'm opening myself up. If intuitively I feel like, hey, I want to have a conversation with him and tell him I want to give it another try, you can. But you need that clarity. You need at least a couple of days where you can kind of sit alone and you can think about it. I'm pretty confident you're going to get your answers between the eclipses and the retrogrades that are majorly impacting your chart. But I also know with that Five of Swords, it can mean that there can be a lot of conflict and a lot of like frustration that can come up where almost if, you know, you say, hey, I need some space and it's not defined, and then you come back and you're communicating with him, then you're just kind of like, well, why didn't you call me? Or like, what were you doing? Or who were you with? And you could be getting angry because you feel like he was not doing the same thing as you. And I would say go into this without having any expectations from him. If you feel the need to tell him, hey, I'm just really confused right now, you know, like I really am kind of a mess about our, you know, dynamic, and like I really want to move forward, but I'm just wondering whether or not this is good for me. And if you need to lay the ground rules and be like, hey, I'm not seeing anybody, or, you know, if you are, let me know, that's up to you. But you're going to get probably upset about the things that you do not define, because the kind of the blindfold over your eyes is just kind of like, well, what was happening when I wasn't around? She says, I'm definitely done chasing him. He'll have to come back with what I need. Well, I mean, that's a good place to start. But I also feel like there can definitely be a lot of issues if you're not clearly defining what you're feeling and what you think. And it's less about emotions. It's more about just communication and intellect. It's like maybe you sitting down with him after taking a couple days and being like, this is what I think. I'm trying to separate how I feel from realistically what's best for me. And like, you might just say, I'm done fighting for this. I'm done fighting for you. I'm done pushing for you. I put myself out there. I realize that I keep being kind of left, you know, in a situation of being confused and feeling like I'm not being chosen. And you may have that conversation, and like definitely doing that, you know, February going into March would be a good time to do it, because that's when you can close the door. And that's when you're also going to see whether or not they're going to come back around and communicate more clearly. But right now, you're unable to really kind of make those decisions or have that clarity. Give yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of space. And I think that you're going to feel a little bit more confident with what you need to tell him. The Two of Swords means the jury's still out. It literally means that it could go one of two ways. But with the Five of Swords reversed, you have to tell him what you want and what you need and what you're looking for. And it doesn't mean you're saying, I need you to do these things. It's, this is what I'm seeking in a relationship. This is where I see my life going. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish. This is how I want to be loved. And let him know that's what you need. So that way you're not just saying, you know what, this isn't working. We're not talking anymore. And then you get mad because you don't hear from him. And then when you do talk to him, you're going to be like, why didn't you call me? He's going to go, well, you left. So you have to get very clear and very concise with where your head is at, not necessarily where your heart is at. And spell it all out for him and make it very clear. So that way he knows the grounds for why you were potentially walking away. So he has at least that knowledge of, this is what she needs. I can't come back unless she's willing to give this to me, you know? So difficult cards, but it's certainly not defined. What is defined is that you'll be really disappointed if you're not making yourself very clear. Make yourself clear. All right, readings are closed. We've got Adriana and Nancy and Corey and Amanda. You guys snuck in there. All right, Adriana says, hi, my friend. I'm a Libra rising Gemini sun. Major reorganizing at work. When will things settle down? Good luck, Rachel. Let me know what happens. Well, let's see what we can tell Adriana. That makes sense. Probably won't settle down for a little bit. Maybe in March. Oh boy. Look, this is the finale, right? So think about the last 2.5 years of having Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. There's been a lot of confusion about departments and scheduling and employees and who's doing what, and probably feeling like there's a lot of very incompetent people and a lot of confusion about what's next. And so now, as we're going into this next month, you're going to have an eclipse in your 6th house. You're going to have an eclipse in your 6th house in March. And then you're also going to be, you're having an eclipse in your 12th house in March and a Mercury retrograde in your 6th house. So that represents clarity coming through, release of stress in regards to reorganization with work, cycles kind of closing out. And like, honestly, I think it's going to be good because even though the Mercury retrograde is kind of a stinker in the 6th house, it will retrograde conjunct Venus. So it's supposed to be bringing a Libra rising, enjoying their schedule more, enjoying their career more, getting into more comfortable offices, feeling like they have more support at work. And obviously it's all going to trine Jupiter in your 10th. So this is talking about cycles completing, conclusions, things wrapping up. And this energy, the World card, can be talking about literally right at the end of the real year. So we're looking at kind of mid-March, which makes sense when the Mercury retrograde is ending, and we're also seeing that there's going to be an eclipse in your 12th house. Don't lose sleep over it because whatever is getting restructured and reorganized is actually going to be good for you. And I do think that the World card is saying like now cycles are completing so you can move on to the next lesson. And a lot of Libra risings are either going to be, saying goodbye to certain offices or schedules or jobs, while others are going to be saying, you know what, it's time for me to kind of do something that's going to be better for me and my emotions and my health. So it can also represent being like, I'm so overwhelmed, like you may take a mental health day. Although the World card is saying that these are going to be good chapters that are closing, and you should be looking for that right around about, I would say mid-March is when that change is going to happen. This is a great card. It says that it initiates during the fixed months too, right? So we're coming into, obviously, we're in Aquarius season now. So it can mean Aquarius season is when things get stirred up. And then as we're kind of getting into, Pisces and Aries season, that's when you're kind of getting settled. And then there could be some bigger changes happening as we get into May. But could not pick a better card for being like, okay, is this stuff finally going to get sorted out? Yes, it will. And likely you're going to see Saturn and Neptune leaving. We'll do the same. Hopefully that's helpful for you. What's up, Nancy? Nancy says, my question is, should I buy a house by May of 2026? Let's take a look. Should Nancy buy a house by May of 2026? Well, Nancy, you get the Queen of Coins. So that can definitely mean you have the physical capabilities, wherewithal, stability, credit, whatever you want to call it, to make this happen, right? So Queen of Coins is a great card. What I will say about her, though, is that she is kind of the oldest, most wise, most developed, most secure of all of the queens. Unlike the Queen of Cups, that's idealistic and will make decisions with her heart, or the Queen of Wands that just wants some kind of action and excitement, or the Queen of Swords that just wants to be able to kind of like communicate and engage and weigh options. The Queen of Pentacles is the one that will take the longest to make a decision. She is the one that is going to be thinking about all of the effects, okay? So you have to think about going into buying a house here. Just because you have the money to do this, you have to ask yourself, and yes, you might be able to be like, I could sell my house to buy a house, or I've got the cash, or I'm qualified for a mortgage. I understand. But is that the smart thing to do financially? I think that's really what you're going to be asking yourself. Does it make sense to go and put down a whole mess of money and put it into a situation that you're going to own something, but it does kind of talk a little bit about you weighing the options and kind of saying to yourself, yes, I'm doing this because it's going to bring me a sense of security. I am seeing it potentially as like an investment, but take into consideration other things, right? The Queen of Coins would be like, what's it going to cost, you know, to potentially take care of the property? What's it going to cost to furnish this place? When am I going to have to go in and fix or update or paint or remodel? Am I going to be able to take on all of the responsibility by myself? Can I cover or swing what would potentially be the purchase price or the mortgage on it? Because it's trying to get you to think about, is it going to be making sense for you long term? And if it's an investment, it may mean that there is going to be a little bit of a back and forth that you're going to be having with somebody who might be a financial advisor who's going to talk to you about whether or not it makes sense to actually purchase something, or if it makes sense to wait. Now, this could be a Capricorn, this could be a Virgo, this could also potentially be a Taurus or somebody who works for banking or kind of investments, or maybe financial advisors. I think that would probably be smart before you go and you buy something, and run all the numbers and talk to them and be like, yeah, so I can do it, but just because I can do it, is this the only way, right? Are there other ways for me to be able to have a home that I can own that's either going to be more affordable, or are there other potential ways that I could be looking at making an investment that may be safer or more secure? And I know that sounds crazy because everybody's like, oh, you buy a house and that's security. But I think we're about to see some absolutely horrific economic things that are about to happen. And a lot of other astrologers will say the same thing. You know, we're getting ready to see Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries. That means that we're going to see governments fall. We might see wars. We're probably going to see some major issues with materials. We're going to see prices that are going to go up. So you want to make sure that if you're going into a situation where you're buying something like that and taking on what is potentially a risk, that there isn't going to be any other surprises or anything other financial unexpected situations that are going to rock you. But I think you're smart enough, you're capable enough, you're physically capable, financially capable enough to doing it, but go and talk to somebody and be like, is this actually the move? I think a lot of people are going to be able to finally buy homes this year if they've been able to kind of save money. That's what I think. And you'd have to really go and look at your rising sign and what the ruler of your second and your fourth house is, because that's going to talk about investments with money, and then it's also going to talk about the fourth house. Can you do it? Yeah. But be smart about how you're doing it, especially if you're like, oh, I want to be able to, you know, buy a home. Well, are you going to spend a bunch of money buying a home that's over the top and ready to go? Or are you willing to make some smart kind of moves where you're potentially positioning yourself to get something that you can still live in, that you still love, but it could potentially be an investment and you wouldn't spend as much, and you're being conservative because you're thinking about your long-term wealth goals overall, right? Hopefully you find that person. I would definitely talk to somebody before you plop down a bunch of money with some of the stuff that's going to happen with the economy. Be very careful. All right, we've got Corey that's back for second helpings. Corey, this says, aside from my recent chart transits reading last week, what are my guides wanting to show me that I should be doing in order to finally clear the blockages preventing my business deals from moving forward and over the finish line? All right, well, let's take a look. What's up, Corey? What does Corey's guides want him to know about making some of this business stuff happen, moving forward, positive changes in regards to business? A lot of Gemini risings are going to see a big change with the Mercury retrograde and the eclipses. Whoo! Ooh, Eight of Swords. Well, I think it's about like letting go of this, like, what if it doesn't work? And I know that sounds crazy, but like having a Pisces midheaven, you could definitely be like, oh my God, what if it falls apart? Or like, I'm not sure. Like there can be this sense of doubt, right? And so I think that I would look at, is Saturn and Neptune going to continue to be in your 10th house? That's important. Or is it officially Placidus-wise going into your 11th? Because if you're a later degree Gemini rising, Saturn and Neptune is still going to be in your 10th house in Aries. And so that's going to be good because it's going to give you the opportunity to be like, I have to actually make this happen. It's not a matter of, will it work out? Will it not? Will something get flushed out? I mean, honestly, look at some of the transits. You know, eclipses coming in your 4th house, your chart ruler retrograding in your 10th house. You know, we will see that there is going to be a little bit of a storm that's going to be brewing in February. But I think that this retrograde is much better than last year. So, if you have an Aquarius midheaven, that's, you're getting everything kicked up right now then. So everything's happening right now. So there's a lot of power that's kind of being put into, you know, connecting, networking, and working with others. But from the whole sign perspective, just in general, you'll see that there is going to be, with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and then also there's an eclipse in your 4th house, it's like a lot of emotional release regarding whether or not something is going to work. That retrograde is going to trine Jupiter, right? So it's going to be good for money. And it means that deals can come back around. It can give you the opportunity to reconnect with people and finally kind of bring people back in and make the deals. There can be some delays. And so with the Eight of Swords, you know, it's very similar to the Two of Swords. Both of these women are blindfolded, but neither one of them, their hands are kind of bound. So unlike the Two of Swords, it's like, I can't make a decision. The Eight of Swords is like, I know what I need to do, but I'm just scared. And like, it's scary for me to think outside of the box, or it's scary for me to maybe get outside of my usual way of doing things. But like where things are uncomfortable or kind of like unknown is where there's going to be the most growth that's going to be taking place. I will tell you that, you know, I think eights are about change and it's about give and return, like an exchange. So it can mean that the tide might actually turn and it's going to be about you being like, okay, I'm ready for it. You know, I'm ready to receive some of this good news or for people to come back and have more clarity and let go of this mindset that's like, I'm stuck. You know, I'm in this situation where now I've made a lot of sacrifices and I've risked a lot of things and I can't get out of it. No, you can always make a change. Networking will be something that's so incredibly important for you over the next year. Knowing that those transits are going through your 11th house, it's going to be about getting proactive, connecting with people, and really professional networking, online groups. It's going to be about hosting groups, joining groups, connecting with people, and finding ways to be able to kind of broaden your audience. And like, that will be a huge, huge, huge theme for you. You're going to see that in April. So whatever you're afraid of dealing with, or whatever you feel like you're scared that isn't going to work out, you have to be willing to face that and go, yes, I know there's going to be some stormy weather, but it's also going to give me the opportunity to reconnect with people and kind of go, oh, I've only got, you know, so much space or so much availability or so many people that I can work with, you know, so if you want to get together, let me know, I'm available. And then people are going to act in like a scarcity mindset, and then it's kind of working in your favor. So it might bring people back around that's going to have you or give you the opportunity to kind of renegotiate and do business with. That's how you make astrology work in your favor, right? So don't be afraid of things. Oftentimes when this card comes up with a client, I'm like, dude, you're afraid of something that's inevitable. So rather than being afraid of it and like kind of dreading it, be like, okay, I'm going to come up with a solution and a plan. And probably it's going to be about finding ways to kind of like reconnect with people after you feel like some of the deals have fallen through. And it's not so much about renegotiating. It's just about having, I used to work as a server, so we'd call it table touching. So you would come and you would, you know, greet them, get them something to drink, and then you would make your rounds and you'd come and you'd connect to the table, right? So even if these people are still indecisive, they're still on the fence, you're still doing your reconnections and your touch every so many, you know, weeks or whatever, or once a month to ensure that you're staying connected with them, letting them know that you're still there and still, you know, keeping things moving in the process. So that way you're not looking at it as, oh, they're not coming back around to working with me. It's like, I'm giving them space for them to decide. In the meantime, I'm going and building my empire. Trust. It's a big one. All right, so we've got Amanda who says, yep, you're welcome. Is my ex's current rebound relationship going to last? He literally got with her 3 weeks after our breakup, and he and she are posting all of the time. Well, you've got to love that relationship PR, especially the rebound stuff. It's like really good for about 3 months, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like drops off. We'll see. let's take a look. So I will indulge in your requests only until Saturn and Neptune go into Aries. Then I'm going to be like, who cares? All right, let's take a look. So is this relationship that Amanda's ex in, is it going to last? Interesting card. Confirmation card is the Four of Coins. So, you know, the World card coming up is talking about cycles concluding and completing. So one way of looking at this is it can be basically saying, like, it could be the tarot saying to you, like, well, that cycle that you've had with him is completed, right? So it's like your guys' kind of cycle is done. Do you really want to, you know, continue to know more? Sometimes the tarot gets like that. It gets kind of sassy. It can also mean that what goes around comes around, right? So if it's been a situation where he has been unfaithful, dishonest, you know, not transparent, not direct, not ethical, what goes around comes around. Not in a bad way, but that's what the world teaches us. It's just like, well, it's going to come back. And the confirmation card that came up with that was the Four of Coins. So it's saying, like, he may, and it may be something that lasts for 4 months, you know, or it may be something that lasts for 4 weeks. Usually Four of Coins is 4 months. And then there is going to be a turn in the situation. And it's not saying definitively there's going to be an ending, but it might be something that he is experiencing in the relationship that's very similar to what he put out there. And he may try to hold on to it or glob onto it or be like, I want to make this work. This is the thing. But, like, you know, knowing that he's a Sag rising and knowing that he's going to be having that Uranus transit in the 7th house, he will cycle like the wheel, right, or the world, back and forth from multiple partners. He'll keep going through it. And whoever he's going to be able to get the intention from and the communication from and the back and forth from, who's going to engage with him, he will keep doing it. And it looks like, to me, it's more saying he has not gotten off the karma merry-go-round. So it may not matter who he's in a relationship with. He's going to go round and round and round and keep dealing with the same thing. And so it can be also this tendency of, he gets in it, you know, he'll love bomb them. It's like hardcore relationship. Everything's amazing. And then having been with him, you know, after a period of time, the luster starts to kind of wear off. And then you start to kind of realize, like, something is up here. And then obviously we know what happened with your situation. You found out that he was cheating, right? And then got into a relationship with someone else. I think really the point is that whatever is going on, karma is about to be fulfilled. The World card is saying that it's going to be complete. Does it mean it's for a forever thing? You know, if I got the Lovers card, maybe if I got the 10 of Cups, maybe if I got the 4 of Wands, maybe if I got the Justice card, I would be like, wow, it looks like, you know, they might actually be together for a long time and this is a good match. While the World card is saying that this is a cycle. So he's still going through the same cycle and he might be unwilling to drop some of his old habits, or he might be feeling like after a couple of months he's really holding on to it. But somebody may drop him like a hot potato, the same way he kind of dropped you, because somebody might recognize and realize some of the patterns and he's going to be like, no, wait, let's make this work. And it's just saying he is going through the lesson. When you're in it, it can be hard to see. But I would say, like, knowing that Saturn and Neptune are in your 7th house, and this isn't about wishing ill will on somebody. I want to be very clear. But whatever happens to him over the next couple of months is like his shit, right? So, like, I'm seeing some Virgo risings who are going through Saturn and Neptune in their 7th, who are telling me, like, oh my God, I found out that, you know, my ex, you know, unalived himself. Okay, trigger warning, but, like, literally. And I'm like, wow, that's such a Saturn and Neptune and Pisces thing. I'm so sorry to hear that. And, you know, that's really difficult. And, like, you know, it's got to be hard not getting closure. And they're like, yeah, but, you know, in some weird way, I feel like they're at peace. And if that's what was meant to happen, you know, obviously I'm sad. I wish they had reached out to me. But, like, that's the cycle. Saturn will do that, guys. Saturn traditionally was kind of like Pluto. We didn't have that in medieval astrology. We had Saturn. Saturn was literally the barrier. It was the limitation. So now that you're seeing Saturn going into Aries, okay, it has killed something off in Pisces and it revealed something to you that was not savory and it was not clear or secure. And now what's going to happen is you're going to see it go into Aries and it's going to be a completely different energy. You may very well find that you're getting involved in a relationship very, very quickly. And you might end up meeting somebody who's going to be super masculine, very direct, handy, fit, super hot. And then you're going to be like, yeah, this is what my ex did to me. You know, he cheated and then he did this and he did that. And that person will get mad and they will be like, I can't believe they did that to you, right? And so the karma of not only what happens to the people you've been with, And part of that cycle over the next couple of months means, hey, you know, he might be really dealing with a lot of karmic reckoning and he might be on his own. It's going to be in Aries. So that could also mean that, you know, he being a Gemini rising is dating some really young girl who all of a sudden just kind of pieces out on him. That could happen. You know, it could also mean that he's feeling like it's not fulfilling, so he wants to find somebody else, and somebody's like, oh, hell no. So even if you're watching from afar, which I'd be more focused on the future, know that it's more about him being in this situation right now and the cycle is completing. And even though he's going to try to hold on the best that he can, he's going to be going through some kind of lesson that's going to be kind of clearing the decks. But what goes around comes around. As a Libra rising, I've definitely seen that in this last year. I've had several experiences where I was like, I never thought I would hear from that person ever again, and I wish you well and far away. So you will see some of those things. You may not hear from them directly, but I think that you will see him, especially when he's scrambling and he's realizing that he's kind of burned his bridge. So look forward to the new one that's going to be coming in. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me for Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and doing my live readings. I really enjoy hanging out with you guys. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch you here on Sunday for Sunday's Astro Weather, where we talk all about Neptune going into Aries. And if you guys want to see more about me and my work, maybe you want to pick up a tarot tote bag or some of my cool Zodiac mugs, or sign up for my classes or get a calendar, click the links below. Go to head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can see all of that. And I will catch you guys back here on Sunday, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.